So we're actually going to go ahead and take a look at Bound for Glory 2013. And we're also going to take a look at what I would consider to be some of the best booking as far as Impact Wrestling, or for that matter, professional wrestling in a whole looks like. Because the fact that sometimes pro wrestling can't really be seen as entertaining and compelling television, simply because sometimes you have these things that happen, but they don't exactly give you a reason as to why it's happening. I understand that in the world of professional wrestling, the ultimate penultimate prize, for that matter, is a wrestling championship. And for that matter, the wrestling championship that most people want is the coveted World Heavyweight Championship. And no matter whether you call it the World Heavyweight Championship, no matter whether you call it the World Title, the World Championship, or no matter whether you call it, in this case, the one that we will be looking at is the TNA Heavyweight Championship of the world. No matter how you paraphrase it or how you say it, and in one case or another, the WWE decided that it was just the wonderful idea to name it the Universal Championship. Whenever Daniel Bryan had it, which wasn't for very long, he made it out of recyclable cardboard and he called it the Planet's Championship, I think, or yeah, something of that nature, because he's vegan and that's funny. Moving on. Moving on from that, though, we get a lot of these, like, you understand that the title is what you're coveting. That's what you want. That's what you feel like that you need, you've earned, or you deserve. WWE this week has announced, however, that Brock Lesnar will be facing off against Roman Reigns at the 2021. At the 2022. Where am I? At the 2022 event, known only as SummerSlam, which will happen next month. Usually SummerSlam takes place in August, but I guess we're doing something else in August. Also, this is how it happened. So, Roman Reigns just got done defeating, or beating up, Matt Riddle, I think it was. And the original plan apparently was for him to face off against Randy Orton. And the reason that they can't do that is because Randy Orton broke his back in several places. Not only that, but Orton has, on many occasions, including one occasion whenever he was drunk, and decided that it was a good idea to try to jump if I remember correctly, it was something to do with a motorcycle. Tried to jump a motorcycle like Evel Knievel over like two cars or something. Yeah, and he broke his collarbone. And in one instance, he got thrown out of the ring, and he hit the ring padding, even though there's little to no padding outside a wrestling ring. But what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to flatten yourself, like your stomach, and you're not supposed to tense up. It's kind of like hitting an elevator. If an elevator ever drops to the bottom floor, you need to remember surface area is key. Just don't tense up. Don't brace for impact. Even though that's what you want to do, don't do that. And what you want to do is you want to get to the like bottom of the elevator floor, and then you just want to lay down. Maybe cover your head, but don't brace for impact. Anyway, Randy Orton forgot his wrestling training, and I guess what ended up happening was he ended up falling the wrong way, and he broke his collarbone. I'm not sure whether that was the first or the second time, but the collarbone is right there near your jugular vein, and it connects your shoulder blade, I want to say, to your sternum. And that connects to your rib cage. And I'm not going to sit here and say, and the ass bone connects to the leg bone, and the leg bone connects to the shin bone. You know, like, I can't. And the thigh bone connects to the. Like, this is not anatomy class. And if you want to learn about that song, I'm not sure whether they go from head to toe or toe to head, but I guess it's not important in this case. I'm just got a severe case of ADHD. And I keep jumping from subject to subject for whatever reason. I'm sure there's a reason. I'm sure it's not a very good one. But nonetheless, it kind of bothers me that there's no story. Once again, no story whatsoever going into the SummerSlam event. The SummerSlam event has to do with Brock Lesnar facing off against Roman Reigns. But my question is, why? Why does Brock Lesnar get these ultimate championship opportunities? Eventually, it's going to mean nothing, you know? Like, if they can't find a contender for Roman Reigns, it's not, oh, I know, let's call up Brock Lesnar. We've done this 47 times before, and why not? And this time, the tables are turned. Before, whenever they faced off, it was always Roman who was the face and Brock who was the heel. Now, they've switched it around. Brock is the face and Roman is the heel, which is something that a lot of people think that they would have never seen whenever you think about it. But I'm going to go ahead and... my point is that that's doing it wrong. This entire time, WWE has been projecting themselves to be the king of sports entertainment. And that's exactly what they want to be, the king of sports entertainment. But there's little to no sports entertainment fans out there. Allow me to say that again. There's little to no sports entertainment fans out there. We are wrestling fans. What we want is competition, blood, sweat, and tears. We want passion. We want to see somebody get their ass kicked and then stand up and shake that same man's hand. We desire passion. We love to see a good story come together. And if I have to go out and write my own fucking story just to see it come together, then that's what I'm going to do. But for now, I can't do that. I haven't, and I don't have the means to do that. Also, I feel like I should say this right now. Next door, they are probably going to throw hands because this family is 10 kinds of crazy, and I know what you're thinking. Oh, sweetie, everybody's family is crazy. Hurt. But you don't understand something, and you're like, I'm not trying to play this off as, oh, my family's crazy. No, they are literally, they are a nutcase, okay? They don't understand what normal is. They don't understand what... So, whenever I was coming back from the store, I just bought two liters of soda. Almost said pop, because, you know, I guess I'm southern like that. But anyway, almost bought two liters of. I just got done buying. Not almost. I just got done buying two liters of soda, and as I was coming back from the road up the steps, and then up the steps to my house, up the steps to my yard, and then up the steps to my house, I heard them yelling at each other. So someone might or might not come in through the door there and slam it and be cursing at either one, their phone, while they're talking on the phone to the person that they're cursing at, two, nobody, because, like I said, they're unhinged. But they might come through the door, they might slam the door, they might start cursing at the air, or for that matter, they might take the fight from Carla's house to here because they have no respect for me. And they might decide to go ahead and fight right in front of, like, my room connects to the living room, for those of you who don't know, which is a majority, if not all of you, because practically no one who listens to this podcast lives at my house, or for that matter, has any conjunction with my house, has never been a part of it, or for that matter, has never even seen it. So my room connects to the living room, so as soon as you walk through those double doors, holy crap, as soon as you walk through those doors, you're gonna practically be in 3 steps of my room. So if anyone were to shut a door, and I mean like shut a door like loudly, if you hear a background noise, try not to question it, because that's normal for them, but it's not normal for me. However, and also there's a new cat, like 7, maybe 12 feet away right now, and my cats keep staring it down and like at it, they'll hiss at it, and then I'm like, stop doing that, he's a little black cat, so there might be a cat fight tonight, and there might be, I don't know why everybody wants to fight. I don't understand it. Like, I talk about loving energy and stuff like that on my YouTube channel. It's more or less witchcraft stuff, which, speaking of witchcraft, speaking of pagan religions, or for that matter, Satanism, I'm going to be doing next week is a little bit different, and I'm going to talk about, rather, a creepypasta, or a copypasta, however you want to say it. It's not really creepy, so a copypasta. I know, Halloween, where's that? Like, Halloween's not even here yet. But I'm going to be doing a copypasta next week. On next week's episode, I will be doing a witchcraft episode, and if you choose to tune in, then thank you so much for supporting me. But if you choose to skip next week, I probably won't talk about it. Like, whenever I go back into wrestling, I probably won't be like, hey, what's going on? How come no one checked it out? Like, ultimate sad face, man. And I don't understand cat logic, okay? Just because there's a new small black cat who probably just wants something to eat, doesn't mean that you have to eyeball it all the time, every time that it walks by, the street, and then just be like, you're in the wrong part of town, buddy, Like, what? But anyway, we're 15 minutes in, and I have yet to tell you what it is that we're going to be talking about. So I do apologize for that. All of the updates, and therefore aforementioned clowns outside that are going to be fighting over who owns what house and whatever else. It doesn't concern for that matter, you didn't come here for that. So, in today's episode, as I stated before, we will be looking at the Bound for Glory 2013 event. AJ is seen as the underdog. They stack the deck against him, and he wants revenge from TNA owner Dixie Carter. Bully says, okay, so Bully Ray is he's your titular bad guy here. He's your heel, your antagonist, because he's always there to antagonize somebody. He's got this beautiful, beautiful woman. He's got this, what he calls a clubhouse, this clubhouse full of men who are there, and they've got his back, and AJ Styles is outnumbered. It gets to a point to where they put a $50,000 bounty on AJ Styles' head, and I had to scratch my head whenever they showed the highlights to this. Before the match, they'll show you like a little bit of like what's been happening the weeks before, which I'm glad that they do. Not just, hey, here's the wrestling match. Okay, satisfied yet? Okay, next match. Okay, hey, here's the wrestling match. Satisfied yet? Okay, next match. Okay, next match. Participants for the next match are called to the ring right now. I'm glad that they don't do that. I am so happy that they don't do that. Because if they did that, then I might have a problem. But anyway, what they do the best is, especially the titular bad guy, the heel, as I said before, Bully Ray. He is the ultimate bad guy of bad guys. Bully says, and this is practically his catchphrase, he should put it on a fucking t-shirt. Do you know who I am? I'm the guy who put the wrestling world on hard times. And AJ, I'm going to do the same thing to you. I'm going to put you on hard times. He says, I'm going to put your wife, I'm going to put your kids, your parents, all on hard times. Right here I wrote grandparents too, but you get the point. He's going to basically create a reality, is what Bully Ray is saying, where AJ Styles is on hard times because he's put the wrestling world on hard times. Now, the reason that he says that is because no matter who stepped to him, they've always left in a stretcher. Whether it be Kurt Angle, or whether it be who we'll talk about later. We'll talk about Kurt Angle later. But Kurt Angle and Bully Ray was more than 2 or 3 months ago. Whether it be Jeff Hardy, whether it's anybody who's stepped to Bully Ray, he's practically looked them in the eye, asked them to quit, and then whenever they refuse, he's broken them. And week after week after week, he would put people through tables, he would send them away in a stretcher. Or for that matter, sometimes you just wouldn't see him on TV after months and months and months, and then you'd wonder, I wonder what happened to that person. So that's why he said that he put the wrestling business on hard times. And then he practically said, AJ Styles, you're no different, kid. I try to do my best Bully Ray impression, but I don't know if it works or not. Because he's got this thick New York accent, and you can hear it, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. One thing that I hate about this particular event is the fact that they tried to get all the other wrestling championship matches out of the way. Just straight out. Straight up. So if I was to organize this wrestling card, it would look a little bit different. Okay, so first match that we have is the X Division Championship, which we'll talk about, just not right now. So I sort of did a little oopsie daisy on my notes here, and I put bad influence, and then I put the V, and then I circled it because that's what I used to signify that they're going to verse somebody. But bad influence comes out to the ring, and whenever they do, they weren't fighting anyone. The only thing that they were doing was they were talking, and about 3 minutes goes by them talking whenever Eric Young comes out, and then he tries to warn them, tells them to run, but instead of them listening to young, perky Eric Young, they ended up getting their asses kicked by a man who was returning from like a 3-month injury in Abyss. But anyway, right here we got the X Division Championship match, and then after Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian of Bad Influence come out, and then they complain about not being in the tag team championships match. We get the tag team championships match. So had it been me, I would have put it like this. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do this. Okay, I would have put Kurt Angle versus Bobby Roode first. I would have put EC3 versus I never got this kid's name because he's just a jobber. That's all that he is. I would have put probably EC3 versus Phenomenon first, actually. I would have put Sting versus Magnus second, Kurt Angle versus Bobby Roode third. And then I would have put the X Division Championship next. And then I would have put Chris Daniels and Frankie Kazarian segment next. And then the TNA Tag Team Championships match next. And then the Knockouts Championship match next. Because, unlike some people, I actually value women's wrestling. And I would have made them at least the co-main event before making AJ Styles and Bully Ray face off in the main event. However, if you weren't able to keep up with me, it's okay. I understand. Not all of us are passionate wrestling fans. If you had a pen and a piece of paper and you were keeping up with me, then it should look like a natural wrestling card that flows just like a natural wrestling card. And every other match, even this X Division Championship match, which we'll talk about here in just a second, had these bullet points from Mike Tenay, except for the main event. The main event had no bullet points. It had none of Mike Tenay's. Like, take for instance, I didn't write any of them down, but I can pretty much remember what he said about Kurt Angle versus Bobby Roode. He talked extensively about how important it was for Bobby Roode to keep Kurt Angle on the ground, but at the same time, he was like, keep Kurt Angle on the ground, but don't let Kurt Angle keep you on the ground. That's going to be Mike Tenay's, like, world advice. And go get him, kid, because God forbid Mike Tenay's been in a wrestling match once or twice in his life. He's not. Why they got rid of Don West, I'll never know. But nonetheless, the X Division Championship match. It's an Ultimate X match for the 32nd time in 11 years. In the 11 years of TNA wrestling, as Jeff Hardy faces off against Austin Aries, who faces off against Chris Sabin, who faces off against Samoa Joe, who faces off against the champion, Manic. Now, I had to do some research to figure out who the fuck Manic was. because it just looked like a copy paste of Suicide. But apparently Austin Aries stole the Suicide. He stole the not the trademark, but the outfit, and T.J. Perkins wasn't allowed to use Suicide or something like that. It was a very confusing story. So instead, he just kind of rearranged the colors, and he changed the name and the entrance music so that he could keep the costume. And Manic, I was like, now who in the fuck is Manic? You know, who is it? Who? What am I, an owl? So, TJ Perkins is Manic. And they came up with a creative finish here. So Sabin came to the ring with this beautiful woman, and her name is Velvet Sky. And Velvet Sky has been wrestling for quite some time. But Sabin... Sabin's won 7 out of 11... No, 17. Oh, out of 16. Okay, 16 total. X matches, won 7 of them, has Chris Sabin. Aries is undefeated in Ultimate X matches except for this one, so technically he's not undefeated, but up until this point, he was. You know, this is as they're making their entrances, I'm writing this down. Joe, what looks like... Joe comes to the ring, right? And he does this, hand sign. Well, whatever he does, it looks like he's doing Penta Jr.'s hand sign that he does. I can't do it, but a friend of mine can do Penta Jr.'s hand signal, and he even knows what it means. So, you know, I'm not in the loop as far as lucha wrestling goes. But he could have been doing the Main Event Mafia hand sign, because he is a member of the Main Event Mafia, who we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. So Sabin mocks DX with a crotch chop, and then after, Sabin tells Velvet Sky to get in the ring, and she does, unreluctantly. She does not want to, but he pushes her in there, into the ring, and off the distraction, wins the match. Because they're all distracted by this beautiful lady who's in the match, and, you know, I mean, they're all guys, essentially, but the only person that he had to distract really was Jeff Hardy, who was about to climb the ladder to win the Ultimate X match. In a traditional Ultimate X match, though, there is no ladder. There's just almost an X, and you have to basically climb that X. Anyway, afterwards, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. 3.5 out of 5 stars. So 3 whole stars and then 1/2 of a star. Chris Daniels, and then I put V as in, you know, he was going to face off against somebody, and then I put false alarm segment, not a match. Wrote down prematurely. So, you know, God forbid I don't write something down on a premature basis and get shit wrong. TNA Tag Team Championship match as Gunner and James Storm go up against the Bromans. Now you heard me wrong. I did not say the Bromance. I had to double check and then triple check to make sure that I was pronouncing it right before I started recording. The Bro Mans. James Storm says he sees 2 bros, but whenever he looks in the mirror at him and Gunner, he sees 2 men. So basically he's saying that they might be bros, but Gunner and James Storm are the only men. ref not counting corner counts or calling rope tags. So whenever they're in the ring or whenever they're in the corner, the referee is supposed to count because the guy who is in the corner doesn't have his hands up. You're supposed to count to 5, and by the end of the 5 count, if they don't relent, you're supposed to disqualify the person who's hitting the person without their hands up. To allow someone to defend themselves. But I didn't put specifically who didn't have their hands up, or for that matter, who didn't. Oh, the bromans, by the way, their names are Robbie and Jesse. It took me a minute to figure that out, too. So they just don't come out calling themselves the bromans. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. There was nothing really too exciting about this match. Too exciting, you know. Like, it had some moments, especially the main end of the match, where for whatever reason, Mike Tenay and Taz on commentary don't exactly know what to call. Like, they don't acknowledge the fact that, like, I know what the move is called, but apparently either they don't or they're not going to acknowledge it. But Robbie and Jesse set up for the heart attack, which is a move commonly used by the Hart Foundation and was commonly used by Jim the Anvil Neidhart and his tag team partner, and well, I wouldn't know what the relationship is. His tag team partner, Bret Hart. So I'll try to explain this, but Jim the Anvil Neidhart had a daughter. Her name is Natalia. Natalia calls Bret Hart her uncle. So would that mean that Jim the Anvil Neidhart and either their brother-in-law in one way or another, or their Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart are brothers, which I would highly doubt. Otherwise, that would have been brought up many more times. I want to say that they're brother-in-law in one fashion or another, because that's what it sounds like. Jim the Anvil Neidhart had a daughter, and her name is Natalia, and Natalia calls Bret her uncle, in case you missed it. So, but anyway, I give it 3 out of 5 stars. Kurt Angle gets in the ring, and they're practically like, come on, Kurt, come on out to the ring. And, you know, they have a whole big ceremony that they show that happened Saturday or something like that, wherever they're like, hey, Kurt, you know, welcome to the Hall of Fame. And he's being and if you don't know, years later, 4 years later, I think it was, this is 2013, so 14, 15, 16, 17, yeah. In 2017, Kurt Angle would be accepted into the Sports Hall of Fame, not just the TNA Hall of Fame. But he turns it down, claiming that he's not worthy. Okay, and then next we go to a segment between Auntie D and EC3. Auntie D, of course, stands for Auntie Dixie Carter, and she's got her hands full with this whole AJ Styles situation, which we'll get to here in just a minute. But she practically tells her nephew that, you know, not to worry about anything. She's handpicked his opponent for the night, that he's got nothing to worry about. It should be nothing but smooth sailing from here, because she's got nothing but the best plan for this man. You know, bright future, bright stars, you know, loud champagne, loud weed. That's what I'm talking about, boys. It's my kind of party, you know? But she's practically telling him, and at the end of their conversation, she says, "What is it that we say all the time?" And then they say it together. "The world needs us. We are Carters." So, if you don't know, their last name is Carter. Both of them, because auntie and nephew. Next, we go to the knockouts. The Knockout Women's Championship as ODB, that stands for Old Dirty Bitch. For those of you who aren't aware, I don't know if there should be a slur like a beep, you know, or anything like that. I don't know who controls the airwaves here, whether it's the FCC or, but who exactly? Okay, somebody might come through my door. But who exactly is it that puts the sensors on anything? So if I say ODB, I might not get in trouble as far as monetizations or whatever goes. But if I say "oh dirty bitch," you know, I don't know who exactly is going to, like, are they going to send me a letter? I don't know, you know. So versus Gail Kim, they say that Gail Kim is from Canada. It just, to me, she looks like she should be from Asia. Maybe it sounded racist, but you people, you got a lot of things to say. Versus Brooke Tessmacher, who they just refer to as Brooke. They don't mention that she was a school teacher, that her last name was Miss Tessmacher. And for whatever reason, that she used to use that as her gimmick as well. She used to come out with the glasses to make her look smart, which, I mean, you have to be pretty smart to be in a wrestling match of this caliber. For whatever reason, though, I don't know why, the commentary is somewhere else. They're talking about things that they said that they talked about on the pre-show, which I didn't watch. But they're talking about monkey juice, peanut juice, and gas on commentary. So I don't know what the hell monkey juice is, but they're talking about ODB and how she's got monkey juice in her hair. And, I mean, you could find all sorts of things in there. He's like, you could find all sorts of things in her hair. You might be able to find peanut oil in her hair, you know, and then these two are having a full-on conversation, and there's a fucking wrestling match happening right in front of you. And once in a while, they'll say, "Oh, Gail Kim with a nice stiff kick and a beautiful suplex," you know, but stop talking about peanut oil and go for something, maybe the competition that's in front of you, and focus on the task at hand. What do they pay you for? They don't pay you to sit there and talk about peanut oil. Hell, they barely pay me to sit here and talk about peanut oil. By the way, you should pay me to sit there and talk about peanut oil. So my donation links might be in other episodes. So if you're feeling generous, for that matter, if you just happen to have, let's say, a dollar or two laying around, because I ask people for, you know, hey, how can I take my podcast to the next level? Or what do I got to do in order to start getting monetized or whatever? And they're like, you should ask for donations. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to ask for donations, and I'm going to do it right here in the middle of my episode, so that if you're skipping, you might miss something good. But anyway, what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to close my notebook, and we're going to talk tomorrow. No, I'm joking. Knockouts women's championship, and they talk about practically anything but the match that's happening in front of them. And the ref, here's what really gets me. You remember how over here at the tag team championships match, whenever the Bromans, Robbie and Jesse, oh, by the way, his name is Robbie E, as if that makes a difference, because years prior, there was another wrestler, and his name was Robbie D, and they were a part of the Bromans, but I don't know what happened to him. Either that or he just changed his name to Jesse. Reminds me of that Disney Channel show. Hey, Jesse. Hey, Jesse. It feels like a party every day. Oh, God damn it. We like to have fun here. Shut up. Okay. Knockouts championship match, and the referee. So, tell me, in a contest where 3 people are competing and none of them are cheating, but you're supposed to count, usually. I would understand in a one-on-one contest, okay? But not in a triple threat situation. You see, it doesn't make much sense for the referee to be counting, regardless of the fact of how, I'm going to put this in air quotes, illegal, because it's not illegal as though that you're going to go to jail for it, but it's illegal in this manner. If it were a one-on-one situation, it would be illegal, but in this case it's not. But still, the referee goes outside and decides to count while Gail Kim has what they call the turnbuckle figure 4 on ODB. And the referee is counting to 5, but why? Whenever a competitor grabs the ropes, or for that matter, whenever a competitor grabs the ropes, is kind of like a hey, break this hold type of situation. But in a wrestling triple threat match, believe it or not, a rope break doesn't get you anywhere, because in a triple threat match, you're not supposed to be able to grab the ropes and then relinquish the hold. So the same rule applies here, as Gail Kim puts on that figure 4 turnbuckle, that turnbuckle figure 4 rather, whenever she's going for that, the referee who's counting her is a dumbass, because who's he going to disqualify? It wouldn't be fair to the third person in the match if Gail Kim were to be disqualified under a false pretense. It wouldn't make sense for Gail Kim to get, usually in a wrestling match setting, what ends up happening is, let's say that Ric Flair was caught with brass knuckles and he was to hit me with them, okay? In this case would be a championship match. So let's say that Ric Flair was to hit me with the brass knuckles in a one-on-one contest, just to give you some sort of idea of what it is that I'm rambling about, that it bothers me so much. I would win the match, but Flair would keep the championship because I didn't beat him. But in a triple threat contest, let's say it's me, my best friend, and Ric Flair. Let's say that my best friend hits Ric Flair with the brass knucks instead of Ric Flair hitting me this time. I wasn't involved in the decision whatsoever. I was over there tying my shoes, and lo and behold, would you just say that my friend who beat Ric Flair with a pair of brass knuckles wins the match because and Ric Flair keeps his championship. Yeah, that really doesn't make much sense. Seeing as though that it wouldn't be fair to me. And for that matter, what do you do in the case of a fatal four-way match? What do you do in the case of a six-pack challenge? For that matter, what would you do in the case of a cage match with 4 people in it, where someone was doing something inherently illegal in the confines of a steel cage wrestling match? See, no matter where you put yourself, it doesn't make sense. So the referee outside, and I know that I'm talking about this for way too long, but it bothers me that he would go outside to count a hold that doesn't apply. Like, he could have been focusing on wrestler number 3, because the other 2 were right there doing things, and for some reason Gail Kim felt threatened and she let go. What's going to happen? Is he actually going to disqualify you, Gail? I swear, man, Impact Wrestling needs to get their shit together. Because on the first time that I looked at Impact Wrestling, a referee kicked a fucking bottom rope, or a top rope rather, while a wrestler was grabbing it. And you're not supposed to kick it, you dumbass. You're supposed to count to 5. If he does not relinquish the rope by the count of 5, you disqualify him. I know how to do your job better than you do, and I've never stepped foot inside of a wrestling ring. Unless, of course, it was for the storyline, in which case, I guess it makes sense. But in this case, there would be no story. In the last case, however, there would be a story. He would come out the very next day or the very next week, and then he would say, "Boo-hoo-hoo, I lost my championship because the referee kicked the rope out from under me, and referee, I want you fired," or something like that. And the referee is a wrestler in training, so of course he's going to be like, "You fight me, and if you win, then I'm out of this company," or something like that. You know, just come up with an interesting story. But anyway, Lady Tapa ends up interfering. I don't know who the hell that is. Lady Tapa ends up interfering, and for whatever reason, and on commentary, they talk about it like it was something to cause a disqualification for. Once again, you cannot disqualify somebody when they had no interaction whatsoever with the person that, like, it makes no sense. ODB tries to chase Lady Tapa out of the the ring ramp so that she goes away, because ODB sees that she is a threat to her championship, and in doing so, ODB hits a wall, because Lady Tapa is bigger than ODB. Lady Tapa then picks up Brooke Adams, Miss Tessmacher, the person that they keep calling Brooke, not even, acknowledging the fact that probably a year prior they were calling her Miss Tessmacher, gets jackknife powerbombed, and afterwards Gail Kim pins and Gail Kim wins. Afterwards, Lady Tapa picks up Gail Kim, and Gail Kim gives her a big hug, and they do like the twirling hug, spinning hug, and I guess Gail Kim has aligned herself now with Lady Tapa, as if to say, "Hey, guess who just got a big new bodyguard?" Nonetheless, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I'm starting to lose my voice, but that's great. That's just wonderful. Even before the main event, I'm starting to lose my voice. I don't know what it is with Impact Wrestling and their goddamn referees. Speaking of referees, while he was in the match for a certain wrestling match, while they were recapping what happened this week in Impact Wrestling, Earl Hebner got a chant, very directed toward him. Hang on, oh, you screwed Brett. So, just reminding him that he screwed Brett. Not only that, but whenever they were chanting, you screwed Brett, Earl Hebner's head, his body language, he just kept shaking his head. It was so funny. Okay. Anyway, Kurt Angle versus... For a second there, I thought that said Kurt Angle versus D. Bobby Roode. I was going to say, holy crap. D. Bobby Roode. Like, he's black now. Oh my God, I didn't mean to say that. Shut up. Everybody just shut up, okay? Shh, shh, shh. I didn't say nothing. Shut up. No, you shut up. I'm the only one talking. Well, you better shut up. Anyway, Kurt Angle versus D. Bobby Roode. I'm joking. Bobby Roode. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Beauty of a contest in technical wrestling's elite. Now, coming into this, I thought that it was just going to be a squash match, because usually what they do is they'll show promos, they'll show like the hype package, of everything leading up, how we got to this point, basically. How did we get to this wrestling match right here? And the story wasn't really there, The story was that Bobby Roode was being inducted into the Ego Hall of Fame. And in doing so, he probably very literally allowed his ego to get the better of him whenever he said that Kurt Angle is not worthy of a Hall of Fame induction, and Kurt Angle being in the Hall of Fame here in TNA Impact Wrestling absolutely makes me sick. And then he just goes on and just buries Kurt Angle almost. He says it pays to be rude. And in some cases, maybe, but I mean, whenever you're talking to your supervisor, and your supervisor's talking to your store manager, and then you're sitting there and you're like, hey, did you hear the one about the fat chick who almost didn't get to the bathroom in time? Yeah, she blew up. Like you don't want to give off the impression that it always pays to be rude, and especially, I don't know, But this was a beauty of a contest, honestly. It was 5 out of 5 stars. And so I had a hard time basically putting this one next to my 5 out of 5 star ranked matches. But at the same time, I struggled with giving this a 5 out of 5 stars, because it's not perfect by any means, but the story is what it practically printed its own money. Whenever you look at this as a wrestling match, as a wrestling competition, I wasn't expecting Robert Roode, Bobby Roode, I wasn't expecting him to be able to out-wrestle Kurt Angle. One of the things that Mike Tenay said, as I said earlier, was the fact that he wanted... I don't know why Mike Tenay does this, but before the match, he gave some key points to victory. And if Robert Roode wanted to win this match, what did he have to do? Well, it was very simple. You see, Robert Roode had to, according to Mike Tenay, keep Kurt Angle on the ground, but don't let Kurt Angle keep you on the ground. And and that's practically what Bobby Roode did this entire time. He allowed Kurt Angle to gas himself out, and at every point I was on the edge of my seat, biting my nails. I mean, taking deep breaths, one after another, sitting there asking myself, what's it going to take in order for Robert Roode to just give up? because I thought for sure that this was the Kurt Angle story. That Kurt Angle was going to win and then, end up getting into the Hall of Fame, which, by the way, the ceremony had already happened. So this is just more storyboard writing, but it's consistency, and consistency is beautiful. Regardless of the fact that Kurt Angle came out earlier in the night and said, hey, guys, I don't think that I'm worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. That's like G.I. Joe saying he's not a real American hero, But here's what I wrote down, basically, and I was thinking to myself, how do I put this match into perspective for my viewers to understand, for my listeners, rather, to understand what it was that I was feeling? I don't know who trained Robert Roode. He's not this high flyer who goes top rope for the most entertaining wrestling, but this tops any high flying contest. If you've never seen two people grapple and chain wrestling at its finest, and if that doesn't, for some reason, doesn't entertain you, doesn't make you go, oh wow, did you see what he did there? Oh my god, it's like watching fireworks. It's hypnotic. It's the most beautiful thing you'll ever see in your entire life. If you open your eyes, put down your oh, this is fake. It's art. You need to understand that. It's an art form. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and it's a passionate performance from both men. But then you get EC3 versus Nerve Vernum. And you remember what I said earlier about, hey, Aunt D. Of course, he was talking to his Aunt Dixie. And then he asks her, so what's going to happen tonight? And EC3, Ethan Carter III, jump on the bandwagon now while you can, is making his debut as Ethan Carter III. And for that matter, for whatever reason, Nerve Vernum didn't stand a snowball's chance in hell to begin with. This guy looks like a fucking toothpick. He looks like a penguin if a penguin had anorexia. Like, he's so small. He's so tiny. He's like, I'm like a water bottle if you was to suck all the air out of it. He's so small. I don't know how else to put it, I give it 2 out of 5 stars, and I'm going to move on. You get this Ramble promo from Magnus, and Magnus comes out. They're like, hey, Magnus, could we get your thoughts on your next match? And then he's like, TNA is all about opportunities, and, oh crap, are we live? Opportunities comes knocking on your door, and I'm going to answer that door. And you see, Sting, whenever I'm in the ring with you, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to answer that door, because when life gives you lemons, he's making a lot of cliches, and he's really not tying off stories. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of tying off stories. Now, I thought by the beginning of his promo that he was rambling, but he actually wasn't. He brought it full circle, okay? Whatever it was that Magnus said, I thought for sure that's... I don't know why, but I thought that Bully Ray was going to do a ramble promo, because I heard the first 2 or 3 things that he said But he did it. Here's what he said. I smell the fear. Here's what he said. He says, fear. You reek of fear, AJ. Do you know where you are? You're in the jungle. You're gonna die. He ends up saying, you know, AJ, you remind me of a famous song. One of my favorite songs, actually. He says, you remind me of the lyrics to it. He says, do you know where you are? You're in the jungle. You're gonna die. And then he ends up saying, I don't want you dead, AJ. I don't want you to die. He says, I want the exact opposite. I want you to get in your pickup truck, drive back to Gainesville, Georgia, look your wife and your kids in the eyes, and when your kid looks at you and your little AJ Styles eyes, and then he says, and then he asks you what went wrong, what happened, you can tell him that I did it to you. Something along the lines of that. I'm just paraphrasing. And whenever I wrote this down, I was paraphrasing because I was kind of in a hurry to get it done. And then he goes on to say, do you know who I am? I'm Bully Ray. And then he goes on to say, welcome to the jungle. Welcome to my jungle. So basically, that's how you do a wrestling promo. You bring it full circle. You start on a topic, and then you bring it full circle. You talk about it for 2 or 3 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes, 8 or 10 minutes. But then you bring it back around to that original, what it was that you said. Now, what was it that I said so many weeks ago? For those of you who have been paying attention, you just get this ramble promo from Magnus, and so many weeks ago, I did say this. There is no consistency whenever it comes to most wrestling programs. No long-term booking plans, if you will. Long-term booking seems to fall at the wayside because, as I mentioned at the start of this program, already we have our SummerSlam main event for, I think it's next month, the end of next month, and there's been no story to it other than, hey, I'm Brock Lesnar, hi, how are you? Welcome back, Brock. We just signed you to a $65 million deal contract. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. Can I start making that Undertaker money? Can you pay me like 6 times more than what I'm making right now? Yeah, that's great. Nice to meet you, Brock. How are you? Oh yeah, I'm doing great. Except this time I'm the good guy, right? Yeah, this time you're the good guy. Yeah. How are you, Roman? You liking those titles? Liking those championships? That's good. That's awesome. So you two need to sit down and think of a way to end that SummerSlam match. You know, the one that we've done 75 fucking times. Except this time there's practically no story. It's just going to be us coming out, one of you two or both of you two coming out every week saying, at SummerSlam, I'm going to win. At SummerSlam, I'm going to win. Yes, I understand that you're trying to sell pay-per-view tickets, but I have a question, you know, and then I'm in class and then I raise my hand and then I'm like, why are you fighting? And then you write it on the board that, you know, championships are ultimately the goal in professional wrestling, and then I raise my hand again and then I say, yes, but why? And then you just quit your teaching job because I stumped you? Because all the degrees in the world, all the fancy fucking degrees in the world can't tell you that long-term booking goals being met is something that you failed at your first term of college. So here's a long-term booking tip for you. They took 12 men over the course of 3 fucking months to get to this match that we're about to talk about. Okay, to get to the next match that we're about to talk about. Not this match. Shut up. Everybody just shut up. Over the course of 3 months to get to the Bound for Glory series, WWE, take notes. Sting versus Magnus, and I give it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Both of them are representing the main event. Magnus wants to know why he keeps losing, and he sounds very sore about it. He sounds very mad. It's a one-sided story of respect, and it's told through the eyes of Sting. And by the way, I wrote that down, a one-sided story through the eyes of Sting, before the match had concluded, and I was right. Because the minute that Magnus beats Sting, he doesn't want to shake his hand. So I guess you could say that he turns heel, but they're both in the same group, and the group that they're in is I guess it's supposed to be a face group, you know? Like, they're not bad guys. The Main Event Mafia, they're not, like, bad guys. It's not important, I guess. So, as I said before, Bully Ray comes out. He says that AJ Styles reeks of fear, and that AJ Styles is going to learn what fear is, even throughout the match. Throughout the fucking match, man. I gave this match 2 ratings, by the way. 1 for the storytelling and 1 for the pure adulterated wrestling that we got. By the way, it's no disqualification and it's no count out, and referee Earl Hebner understands that. Wow. Can we get a round of applause? Like a clap? Like a slow clap for fucking one referee who finally understands that you're not to count anything and you're not to jerk any weapons out of the superstar's hands. I mean, you can tell him, hey, don't do that. Don't hit him with the hammer. Please, hey, don't do that. But don't interfere in any way whatsoever. You know, if you see, which brings up another question. Why, whenever he had the hammer in his hand? So Bully Ray, early in the match, like 7 minutes into the match, pulls this hammer that he gets practically out of his ass, but I guess he kept it in his jacket pocket, or maybe where his nuts are. But he pulls this hammer practically out of nowhere because he didn't have it at the start of the wrestling match. And for that matter, Earl Hebner didn't check him for weapons because it's no disqualification, so who the fuck cares if he has brass knuckles on him or anything else. But anyway, he pulls this hammer practically out of his ass, shades of Survivor Series, that we've talked about before, 2001 maybe. He pulls this hammer out of his ass, and afterwards he goes to deck AJ Styles with it, and whenever he does, like, he's visibly trying to hide the hammer from referee Earl Hebner. Why? It's no disqualification. You can keep the hammer. You can keep the hammer out and about, you know, like, nobody would care. It's no disqualification. There's no rule saying that you can't have the hammer. It's not like the main crutch of the match is, hey, Bully Ray, you're not allowed to use that hammer. There you go. Bully Ray is not allowed to use the hammer in the next match that they have. So if you'll remember, we've talked about these two before. In the Slammiversary 2011 pay-per-view episode that I did called Impact Wrestling makes even less sense now than what it did before. which was funny. By the way, it's a fitting episode title, if you ask me, seeing as though that I might have to name this one something funky too. But the fact that he made it so personal, Bully Ray did. So he gets him in the corner around the 15-minute mark of this match, and then he says, if you keep fighting, I will take care of your wife and kids for you. And then AJ Styles just goes ham on this boy. He starts beating his ass, and afterwards, around the third quarter of the match, maybe 17, 18 minutes in, Bully Ray lays AJ Styles out on a table. Well, AJ practically does it to himself whenever he decides it's a good idea to jump out of the ring and in through a table, and then afterwards he lays himself out through a table because Bully Ray moves, and then after Bully moves, he starts to... So if you don't know, a wrestling ring is comprised of a whole bunch of boards under some padding. So Bully Ray removes the padding from the ring to wherever all you can see is nothing more than the plywood, the boards, which is the foundation of the wrestling ring. And he plans on hurting AJ Styles, basically. And then owner Dixie Carter comes out, and then she admonishes the referee, telling him, hey, don't count that 3 count or else you're fired. And then owner Dixie Carter telling everybody, hey, you better stop. And here's another thing too. The referee looks at someone who's interfering in the match. So, like I said, Bully Ray is in a clubhouse known as the Aces and Eights. I didn't tell you the name of the group, but now you know it. The Aces and Eights, it's very fitting that one of the names of the group is the Ace, which is like death in some card games. But anyway, Garrick Bischoff interferes, and AJ Styles chases him up the ring ramp, and the whole time, like, Garrick Bischoff doesn't even interfere either. He doesn't interfere at all. He's about to whenever he notices that the referee's looking at him. Once again, this is no disqualification. Garrick Bischoff can get in that ring and he can shove AJ Styles' head up his own ass, and there's not a goddamn thing that referee can do as long as it's within the confines of a wrestling match and it's nothing illegal. As long as he doesn't pull his pants down and then just start, butt fucking him or something. Once again, I don't know who's monetizing this. So, if I get a letter from the FCC, it's your fault. You're the listener, and it's your fault. But AJ catches up to him. He puns a hammer out of... Oh yeah, he pulls a hammer out of his ass. Starts calling for Taz, and the referee is distracted. Bully Ray doing the Hulk Hogan taunt, which I spelled taunt wrong, but that's not the point. So, Bully Ray is just beating AJ Styles left and right. He's whipping this boy, and I mean like just chopping him like Ric Flair would chop somebody. Speaking of Ric Flair, you remember whenever I said, of course you do, you remember whenever I said that AJ Styles had a $50,000 bounty put on him? Well, we've seen that before. You want to know who put a $50,000 bounty on their opponent's head? The first person to do that was Harley Race. And I forget. Whenever he put a bounty on Ric Flair's head. And the second person to do that was Triple H. Whenever he put a bounty on Batista's head. And this, in all my years of watching professional wrestling, is only the third time that I've seen it done. But you want to know what's really funny about that? Because I do too. I want to know what's really funny. Whenever AJ Styles is being hit in the head by Bully Ray, he says, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" But like I said, I gave this match 2 ratings. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars rather for the storytelling, and 4 out of 5 stars for the professional wrestling. Thank you all so much for joining me this week, and hopefully you tune in next week whenever I decide to look at what will be either my first or my second witchcraft episode, but I'm pretty sure it's my first episode. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm almost certain that I'm out of time for the month, so this should be the last episode of June. Thank you all so much for joining me. Once again, I never did an intro, but my name is Mocha. Have a wonderful day.